History is written for the most part from the outside. Truth often suffers distortion by reason of the point of view of the narrator, some preoccupation of his judgment or fancy, not only as to relative merits, but even as to facts in their real relations. An interior view may not be without some personal coloring, but it must be of interest, especially in important transactions, to know how things appeared to those actually engaged in them.
Today we begin a new series, selections from The Passing of the Armies, the memoir written by Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain and published the year after he died. First, some biographical background.
Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain, who won distinction both as a soldier and as a citizen for the state of Maine and for the whole country, was born in Brewer, Maine, September 8, 1828. During the last campaign of the war, General Chamberlain, with 2 brigades, led the advance of the infantry with Sheridan, and in the fight on the Quaker Road he was twice wounded, and his horse was shot out from under him. For his conspicuous gallantry in this action, he was promoted to the brevet rank of Major General. In the final action near Appomattox Courthouse on the 9th of April, Chamberlain was called by General Sheridan to replace the leading division of cavalry, and the first flag of truce from Longstreet came to Chamberlain's headquarters. His corps commander says in an official report, "In the final action, General Chamberlain had the advance, and at the time the announcement of the surrender was made, he was driving the enemy rapidly before him." At the surrender of Lee's army, General Chamberlain was designated to command the parade, and it was characteristic of his refined nature that he received the surrendering army with a salute of honor. At the final grand review in Washington, Chamberlain's division was placed at the head of the column of the Army of the Potomac. The general was mustered out of military service on the 16th of January, 1866, having declined the offer of a colonelcy in the regular army. When we return, introduction of the passing of the armies.
Summer is a great time for catching up on military history, and my book about the 7 Black Medal of Honor recipients of World War II, Immortal Valor, has just been released in paperback. Immortal Valor chronicles these timeless heroes' life journeys through all the pain and struggle until their ultimate triumphs. I hope you pick up the new paperback version, hardcover or audiobook, available in stores and online.
The Passing of the Armies. Introduction. Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain. History is written for the most part from the outside. Truth often suffers distortion by reason of the point of view of the narrator, some preoccupation of his judgment or fancy, not only as to relative merits, but even as to facts in their real relations. An interior view may not be without some personal coloring, but it must be of interest, especially in important transactions, to know how things appeared to those actually engaged in them. Action and passion on such a scale must bear some thoughts that run before and after. It has been deemed a useful observance to see ourselves as others see us, but it may sometimes be conducive to a just comprehension of the truth to let others see us as we see ourselves. These memoirs are based on notes made nearly at the time of the events which they describe. They give what may be called an interior view of occurrences on the front of the 5th Corps, Army of the Potomac during the last essay in Grant's Virginia campaign. This was so distinctive in character, conditions, and consequences that I have ventured to entitle it The Last Campaign of the Armies. I trust this narrative may not seem to arrogate too much for the merits of the 5th Corps. No eminence is claimed for it, beyond others in that campaign. But the circumstance that this corps was assigned to an active part with Sheridan during the period, chiefly in view the envelopment and final outflanking of Lee's army, warrants the prominence given in this review. It may be permitted to hope that this simple recital may throw some light on a passage of the history of this corps, the record of which has been obscured in consequence of the summary change of commanders early in the campaign. The 5th Corps had a certain severity of reputation, quite distinctive in the comradeship of the Army. Early in its history, Porter's division, the nucleus of it, had drawn the especial praise of General McClellan for its soldierly bearing and proficiency, being unfortunately referred to in orders as a model for the rest of the army. I confess some embarrassments of a personal nature in giving forth certain passages of this record. These facts, however simply stated, cannot but have some bearing on points which have been drawn into controversy on the part of persons who were dear to me as commanders and companions in arms, and who have grown still dearer in the intimacies of friendship since the war. Alas, that no one of them can answer my greeting across the bar. I feel therefore under increased responsibility in recounting these things, but assure myself that I know of no demand of personality or partisanship which should make me doubtful of my ability to tell the truth as I saw and knew it, or distrust my judgment in forming an opinion. Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain.
In our next installment, we begin Chapter 1 of The Passing of the Armies, the situation.
Then the rushing, forced flank movements, known and overmatched by the ever-alert enemy, followed by reckless front attacks where highest valor was deepest loss, buffetings on bloody angles, butcherings in slaughter pens, all the way down to the fateful Chickahominy, should be wrought upon by that strange power of a common suffering which so divinely passes into the power of a common love.
I'm Robert Child, and this has been Point of the Spear.
Music licensed from audioblocks.com. Point of the Spear is produced by RSC Media Group.